The Nightmare Institute, a free excerpt from lesson number 1, Poe and the Building Blocks of Horror. I'm Bram Stoker award-winning author Nicole Cushing, and I'm here today to provide you with a little excerpt from the first class of the Nightmare Institute. What we're going to be doing is taking a look at Edgar Allan Poe's short story, The Telltale Heart, and we're going to be treating it like a car, where you're going to pop open the hood. We're going to take a look at the parts of the engine, and we're going to see how they work and how they relate to each other to create a really great horror story, with the idea that if you understand the components of this short story by Edgar Allan Poe, you have a better understanding of the components of horror fiction as a whole, and will be able to have a better understanding of why your stories are working or not working too. So, let's take a look here. I'm going to focus in this first little excerpt on the first sentence of the story. So we have our first person narrator here saying, "True, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am, but why will you say that I am mad?" Now, what makes this sentence work and what makes it work for a horror story? Well, we have 3 building blocks of horror, which I have spared no expense with my props as far as presenting here. It's my statement that the first building block of horror is a sense of unease, which seems a little bit like a no-brainer, maybe even a tautology, but trust me, it's not. So if you look at the ways that Poe works to instill unease in this sentence, there are several. He's directly addressing the reader at a time when that was not typically done. This was definitely an innovation. He is telling the reader, or insinuating that the reader had a conversation with this first-person narrator, and apparently we, the reader, have insinuated that this person is mad and this person is disputing it. So we find ourselves in the very first sentence in a conversation with someone who may or may not be insane. And so in that sense, Poe is reaching out, grabbing us, and pulling the reader into this conversation involuntarily and telling the reader what the reader previously said to this person who is at the very least very, very dreadfully nervous and may actually be mad. So the reader has had their volition stolen from them, in a sense. Here we are, we're opening up the story, we're expecting something maybe more conventional, maybe something along the lines of what Washington Irving would write, and we find ourselves sucked into this this confrontation from the very beginning, this argument. And we also find our own past statements questioned, and that we have are being told that we said something that we have no memory of saying. This leads to the second building block of horror, which this sentence sets up. The second one of our 3, and that is the building block of unreality, a sense of unreality, which all horror stories have. So, and in horror stories, this can be the presence of unreality can manifest itself as a sense of a creature, a supernatural creature, a vampire, a mummy, a ghost, a demon, etc. Or it can be simply the unreality of not knowing who is sane and who is insane, and it can be kind of everywhere in between. There's different levels of unease, and there's different levels of unreality, and so unreality is also put into this very first sentence. We don't know quite what is real. Do we take this person at their word? If we do, then our understanding of reality originally is wrong because we thought this person was mad and they're not. If he's, and so, if we're wrong, that's something that would be the case. There's disputed reality. That's just kind of the gist of what I'm getting at. So That's the second element of horror fiction. Now, the third element of horror fiction will be covered in a video that's for Nightmare Institute super patrons only. So if you'd like to see more, go on over to Patreon and donate at the $15 level, and you will have access to the entire lesson. But yeah, so these are, again, just admiring everything he does in this first sentence. It's really quite impressive. So I hope that gives you a little taste, and consider joining the class to get the whole thing. Later.